Wouldn't it be cool to have a simple strategy to not only come up with chords, but have those chords actually follow your grooves and rhythms? Today I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's dive in. We're going to take this simple loop as our starting point. Under that loop, we're going to create a MIDI track, and in this MIDI track, I'm going to load up an instrument that is already included in Ableton Live. Just going to search up instruments, Atmos pad. One of my favorite ever presets is for wavetable. You can take any pad really, or anything that just can play notes polyphonically. So if I were to record arm this track, I could now just play in random notes, right? Nice. And if we're not familiar with scales, we don't know how to play in notes, we can just load up the scale device under MIDI effects. Scale device comes with a ton of different presets, and instead of going with the default minor or major scale, I'm going to pick the Phrygian dominant scale. So that's what we're going to load before the Atmos pad. We're going to leave it on C, Phrygian dominant. Phrygian is usually a scale that sounds a bit more oriental. Why not? And now if I hit notes on my keyboard, it'll lock those notes to the scale, so you can't play any wrong notes and it'll always sound like that specific scale. So in this case, it's Phrygian dominant. It did sound slightly oriental there, right? Here's where the magic sauce comes in. We're going to load up a vocoder, which is an audio effect under reverb and resonance, onto the percussion layer. Now we are going to tell the vocoder to be modulated by an external source, also known as the carrier. And the audio input's going to be coming from Atmos pad, post effects. Now I'm going to make sure to dial both tracks down by 8 to 9 dB just to give myself a bit of headroom. And I'm going to disable the Atmos pad layer. Remember, this one is still record armed. And now if we hit play, spacebar, and play chords, those chords will follow the rhythm of the loop here. And if we dial down the dry wet on the vocoder, you'll hear more of the original groove. See, so if I put it on 0%, I'll just hear the groove. If I put it to 50%, I'll hear both the chords and the loop. Nice. All right, now I'm just gonna double click this Atmos pad layer and create a couple chords. And remember, since we have the scale loaded up on this device, we can't really do anything wrong. Just in case, you can also blend in the scale here, and we are using C Phrygian dominant, so you can actually select that here as well, Phrygian dominant, so you know which notes you can use that are also part of the scale, right? And I'm just drawing in some random notes, hit play. Nice. I'm just gonna draw in a couple more here. Cool. And since this pad is a very long sound, it makes sense to increase the release time on the vocoder, so more of those longer notes are input into the vocoder. You can also change the tonality with the format knob over here, so you can make it feel really squelchy and high, or rather low and dark. So let's give it a play here. Okay, so the last chord sounds kind of sussy, so I'm just gonna change it a bit. There we go. And to give this whole thing a bit more movement and make it feel slightly more spacious, we're gonna load up an echo device, put it on ping pong mode, just give it a bit of reverb, dotted eighth notes, and you know what, let's change the reverb mode to feedback. That is just lovely. Let's change the format back up so we get a higher frequency sound, and maybe reduce the amount of low frequencies of the vocoder so we get generally a higher frequency sound. And remember, by changing the dry wet, we change how much of the original loop comes through. So if it's on 100%, we only get the chord information. Nice. And if we dial down the dry wet, we get more of that loop coming through. And at this point, we can switch out the loop. So right click, show in browser, and maybe take a completely different loop and put it here. Or this one. Can even take toms like these. but I'm going to leave it with the original loop for now. And if you're really feeling like it, you can also switch through the individual presets. You can also take a synth of your liking. So let's take Diva and replace it. And I know that I have a few presets in Tulum that work really well. These chords. Yeah, this ambient swell sounds nice. Nice. Yeah, I really like this preset here. At this point, you can just mess around with different scales. You can try out another scale. You don't have to stick with Phrygian dominant. So you could also replace it with the major scale, let's say. Major pentatonic, why not? Put it here, change it to D sharp. Ooh. Nice. And that already gets me inspired. I'll just change around the format here. Release time does a lot. Yeah. And if you want more movement without having to tweak the knobs, the thing that I really love doing is adding LFO, and you can find that under the Max for Live tab. Load up the LFO after the echo, click map, map it to the release time, open up this mapping panel over here, click map again, and this time map it to, let's say, the formants, also map it to the dry wet. Those parameters just give us the most control. If you'd like, you can also map it to depth. I feel like attack doesn't really do that much, and I can just shift the starting points over here, shift the end points a bit so it isn't as extreme. Go out of the assign panel and maybe reduce the depth, the overall depth, so we just get a slight bit of movement. And you know what, dry wet, I'd actually like that to move a bit more. So I'm just going to change these values here. And then if we play, nice. Just mess around with these things here. You can also mess around with the feedback on the echo so you get more of a pad texture. Some dub delay. And then start playing around with the synth. The cutoff especially. Resonance. Nice. At this point, I feel like I already have a loop that sounds good, so I can just take a couple more drum loops from, let's say, the Tulum pack, squeeze them in here just to get a quick groove going. And then we can drop in a nice little kick from an upcoming pack of mine. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help the channel grow. And if you like these sounds, you can grab them all on lotustunes.com. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.